4,000 feet, speed 180 knots, 122.
Hi, this is Natalie FlyGIRL Kelley, and welcome to a very special episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. This is our last guest for our first season. We are wrapping this up with none other than Patty Wagstaff. So appreciative of Patty. We had a conversation early one morning with our beverage of choice, coffee. We talked about all kinds of things, Patty's start, everything that Patty has done in aviation. If you know anything about aviation and females in aviation, you know about Patty Wagstaff. She is an air show performer, but she has also done aerial firefighting. She's been in Kenya flying. She has been a stunt pilot in film and TV, which I had no idea about. I mean, who knew? A couple of things we talked about that really spoke to me on this episode were all about women supporting women, which I think is so very important and something that I try to preach as well. There's enough success in this world for us all to be successful. We don't need to compete. We need to support each other and be united front with one another. And Patty has done that and demonstrated that with me personally and with the FlyGIRL brand, mission, etc., by sharing things on social media about FlyGIRL, and I'm very appreciative of her for that. The other thing we spoke about, which is something else that I really believe in, is being open to things that happen in the universe and being ready, using your talents, letting that kind of direct you sometimes as to where you need to be and what your next step is. And you'll probably get that from our conversation as well. Hopefully you will enjoy this episode. I am pretty confident that you will. I love Patty. She's very down to earth. She's great. One of these days I'm going to get down there to her school and fly around a little bit with her in her extra. And now it is Patty Wagstaff with me, FlyGIRL Kelley, and Fly Allyssa.
It's not so much what they said, but more what they implied. I let it go to my head, I should have let it slide. I know we're okay.
Alyssa lives in St. Louis, which is where you were born, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love St. Louis. I go there a lot, for shows and other. It's right in the middle of the country, so yeah. Yeah. I didn't spend any time there. I was just born there. So.
Right. Yeah. So thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Of course. I think it's very cool what you're doing. And
thank you.
Yeah. Sorry I wasn't available in the evenings. It's been great this year. It seems like it's busier,
Really?
Even though I flew one show last weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which one?
It was fun. It was just a little show over a lake, just down the road from here, not far.
Okay.
Leesburg, Florida. It was a blast. Just to
I know
see
where that's at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it was they had a Veterans Day parade. It was one of those. It was really fun, though, just to be out flying. So.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering how you've kind of adjusted to no air shows, if you'd stayed busy, what you've been doing.
Really busy with sporties, with the videos and the school. So it's actually worked out really well for me to be able to get things done. And even next year, I don't see how shows are going to get back going right away.
Yeah.
A lot of shows are booking, and I'm like, well, I don't. So I'm just going to take a hiatus and focus on the sporties videos and stuff, because it's too iffy.
Yeah.
Honestly, you don't make that much money doing air shows anyway, so I need to.
The sporties thing planned before all of this, or did it come to fruition through all of it?
It was during. It was sort of coincidental. I approached them last year and about it, and they liked the idea, but having all this time home enabled me to sit down at my computer and really knock it out and really focus on it, which I realize that's what it takes. It's 2 or 3 months of just working and writing and then filming it and producing it and all that stuff. So when you know how it is when you're traveling, you think, you have all these visions of sitting in your hotel room working, but
You never
It doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, so I have to be here, and I have several more videos in the works, and so, and you know how great Sporties is to work
Yeah.
with.
I wondered if it was your idea or their idea and how that came to be, but it's cool to know that was your idea. So you kind of have like sounds like you're pretty entrepreneurial as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have to be in this business, really. But it's been my idea for a while, but I wasn't sure how to put it together. And actually, one of my students said, why don't you talk to Sporties? They'd be great. And I said, that's a great idea. So he was at Sun and Fun and went and talked to them just on his own and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And they said, yeah, actually, it's the perfect time because we're looking for content.
Yeah.
I think I forget which one he talked to, that one of the guys that I work with. So
yeah.
So it all sort of came together, and then they came down and we talked. And anyway, it was very copacetic, how it worked out. But those things usually do work that way. You have this idea, and then sort of the universe aligns.
Totally. It just kind of all lined up for everybody at the right time.
Yeah, so it's been great. So that's going to be my main focus.
Yeah,
I'm very ADD, so it's very hard to sit down and focus on one thing.
I bet.
Yeah. So I have a strange way of working.
Yeah, you'd like to have your hand in a lot of stuff. I know with the flygirl stuff, with Sporties, it was very similar to that. I just happened to be training there because people ask me, they're like, "How do you get your stuff in Sporties?" And it's like, I don't really know. I didn't really try that hard. It just happened. They were open to it.
It's going well.
Yeah, it's going well. I didn't really know what to expect, and when it started. But they've been really good to me, and I like them. I got to know them from training there and a lot of the people there, and they seem to be doing. They're happy with it because they're always asking for new ideas and new products for me to help them come up with. So it's fun.
That's great. Yeah. Well, they're just the best people to deal with. They've been amazing. So that's just how it works though. You just throw stuff out there, and sometimes it comes, sometimes it sticks, and sometimes it doesn't. And you just have to throw it out there. You got to start. That's all.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I know you've got limited time. You and I have actually met, but you probably don't remember that in person.
I remember meeting you at Oshkosh.
Yeah.
Winter, I think.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, she remembers me. Yay.
And I saw her this weekend too. She was at the show, and so
that's right. She moved over there. She moved back to Florida from Vegas. So.
They're in Lakeland now. Yeah.
I love Lunar. I met her through my uncle, who is a pilot, and he was going to the air shows and met her and knew Jive pretty well. So that's kind of how I got to know her. But Allyssa, I'm sure you've seen, I've done some things with Allyssa, and she's gotten to be a really good friend of mine who's kind of new to the aviation world with me as well. And we both, know who you are and really respect you and everything that you've done. I mean, you are like the pinnacle of female aviators.
Like that's for doing it before this new age of female push, and seeing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. And, of course, I just never thought of it as, being a woman. Like, I mean, I am. I'm kind of a girly girl, but I never thought of it as being any different. And it's amazing that a lot of those, especially overseas, there's still a lot of that, backwards thinking about it. But yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
So do you think your exposure, I guess because your dad was a pilot and professional pilot, you got to travel a lot, and were you raised in a way that just made you feel like you could just kind of do whatever you wanted, whatever you were, if you had a dream for it?
Yes and no. I mean, they had, it was the, the party line was always, you can do whatever you want to do, blah, blah, blah. But when it came to wanting to be a pilot when I was a kid, it was like, oh, you can't do that. You can't be an astronaut. You can't be a pilot. But so I was right on the verge of things changing, and that was, in the 60s. And my sister is born 9 years younger than me. And when she said she wanted to be a pilot, it was like, oh, you can be a pilot. In 9 years it had changed.
Yeah.
Which I find really, really interesting. She flies for United. And it was great. Things really, really took a turn there because of women that pushed for it. Emily Howell and other women like that got airline jobs. Must have been
what is it like to be? It's like, what is it like to know that you are inspired so many people and so many women to feel like they can do whatever in aviation?
Well, nice of you to say that. I just feel like it's just been a stepping stone process. You go back to like Harriet Quimby and Bessie Coleman and Amelia, Jackie Cochran, all those women, the WASP, and everyone did. Took us one step further. And I didn't go into it wanting to be a role model. I mean, I just went into it because I loved airplanes, from a kid. And it never occurred to me that I couldn't do it. It just like, you just do what you want to do, or you're lucky enough to be able to do what you want to do, maybe.
Did you start flying because you wanted to make a career of it, or? No.
I didn't have any visions of any career, really. I just wanted to try everything. I just wanted to experience life. And I wasn't really raised to have a career. It wasn't like, I was raised, my parents were pretty provincial thinking. It was more like, well, you're just going to get married, and you should have some sort of skill in case something happens to your husband, and, you're going to want to have kids. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I really don't think I want that kind of life. And, I did get married. I've been married and all that, but I didn't want a traditional life, but so no, I just wanted adventure and excitement, and I knew I could do it, and it wasn't a career. And I know that a lot of women, or and men, but a lot of young women are probably more career today than they were when I was college age. I think it's important, but so no, but my sister did. She went into it knowing that she was going for the airlines, and there was no question about that, and she did it. And it was hard for her too, because when she first started, she's even smaller than I am, and they give her you're not tall enough. Her first interview with American, they said she wasn't tall enough, and she's 5'3". It was just an excuse, The airplane had more adjustable, the seats. But
did she have an interest in doing the aerobatic stuff at all? Like you?
She's fun with me, but she never had a big interest in it. She's more of an airplane person.
So when you started flying, it seemed like you progressed pretty quickly through your ratings. When did you decide that you really liked the aerobatic type route in flying?
Yeah, I was lucky. I was in Alaska, and we had this amazing. Well, my husband I got married and met my husband around the same time I was learning to fly, so he helped me get my private. But then after that, I used the Alaska Student Loan Program, which was amazing at the time. So I got all my ratings with that. It was you could borrow really enough I got everything up to CFI, seaplane, and even part of my helicopter rating on it. And the payback, the payments were 5% interest. And for every year that you stayed in Alaska, you get up to 50% forgiven.
Wow.
And half back, right, at 5%. So my payments were like $200-something a month.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Pretty quick, So I just plowed away, and I said I don't know what I want to do with this. And
you loved it. You grew up with it. Like, did you when was the time that you remember as a kid that you actually wanted to learn to fly?
Oh, I loved it from probably 10 years old, 11 years old. And I'd read my dad's manuals. And, I think it was when I found the book, Fate is the Hunter, on his bookshelf.
Yeah.
And I started reading that. I was probably about 12. And I went, this is, so exciting and romantic and adventurous,
I have not read that book. And so many people tell me that it's a good book.
It's a classic. It's one of the classics that you should read. It's about the early days of air transport. Okay. So these were guys who were coming out of the war and getting jobs flying DC-3s and 4s, and, people like my dad and his contemporaries, and flying in, horrible conditions with very little, almost no navigation equipment. I mean, they had beams and, whatever, maybe some early VORs. And flying low because they weren't pressurized, and flying in storms. They didn't have weather reporting, but they really knew how to fly. There was no real loss of control. It was CFIT accidents back then,
Yeah.
They didn't, because the nav was so bad and they were flying in horrible weather related accidents, but they didn't have upset, actually the word upset or loss of control or unusual attitude didn't exist back then, maybe loss of control, but
right.
Because they came out of the military and they knew, they started flying in Stearmans,
right.
T6s, and they learned aerobatics and, stuff like that. So, so that's what that book, Ernest Gann writes about that era.
I've started it like once, and I'm like, I need to get through this book. I know people say it's really good. It just
it might start a little slow and all that, but give it a chance. Just get through it. Yeah.
So I saw also that you do a lot of stuff, but I was reading that you've done some things like stunt flying and stuff for TV and film. And what does that entail? What does that mean?
That's really exciting. I love movie and TV stuff. I don't do much now because I live in Florida. When I lived in the West Coast, it's been a while since I moved here. Then you get those jobs would come up a lot more. But yeah, I've been on a couple of movies, for like a couple of months at a time. The longest movie I did, I think, was Drop Zone. I was on it for a couple of months, and flew mostly Pilatus Porter, and flew some other planes in it. And but yeah, it's been I've done a lot of Discovery Channel stuff, and it's exciting. It's a lot easier now that the cameras are a lot smaller. These huge mounts on the plane and these, giant cameras. I did this one shoot for a Shell oil commercial, and the whole front seat, it was it's a little risky when you're putting all this stuff in these planes. It's in a 2-seat extra, and the whole front seat was just filled with this, camera mounts and cameras. And I have some pictures from that, but these are a lot easier now with GoPros and small. Sony has this amazing, super high resolution camera that's, tiny. So things have changed a lot, but that's exciting.
Do you do a lot of your own, like you film things, your classes and things like that with your students? I've seen some of those videos. Is that something that your school does for the students?
No, the students usually do it, and then I say, hey, send me a clip, would you?
Yeah.
But the students today, especially the younger ones, the older ones aren't very GoPro savvy, but the young students, they all want to put GoPros on, and we have mounts all over the planes.
Yeah.
So inside, outside, wherever they want. So, it's so easy these days.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, go for it. And
I've never even thought of that. And I mean, like in my training, I think that would be, especially like tail wheel, to see like the underside, to see.
I think it is helpful.
Outside of the airplane and what it looks like outside. Because in helicopter, like, you think you're so like going crazy, and it's like, no, you actually had it the whole time. You were fine. But to have had those, it would have been really great. But I'm not.
They use them for I'm sorry to interrupt you. But they do use them.
I'm not like this young person, but I'm like, man, I really should like utilize that. But I also don't want people to criticize everything that I do in the cockpit. So
it's really common.
Cameras.
It's super common that everybody brings a GoPro and micro discs, and we have a mount that we just keep in the back of our Super Decathlon, and it's in the back seat. So usually the students in the front seat, and it's super wide angle, and they use it for training. They go back and review it, and it's really helpful. So it's very common to do it. So don't think anything of it. You can get these mounts that have a suction cup on them, and that just hook onto a window. You can't do it with everything. Sometimes a helicopter might be hard, but there's usually a place you can do it, especially in a tail dragger, and it's very common to do that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think twice about it. And a lot of them really use it to review and go back, and it really helps them. So definitely, and encourage that. It's an amazing tool.
Totally.
I didn't have any of that, so.
Going back to when you started doing like aerobatic training and things, what did you go to for practicing, or did you just, go up with somebody and try things, or like what?
I took a lesson. I took a course. I went to a contest and I went to an air show, and I told my husband, I said, I don't, I'm not going to be an airline pilot, and what I really want to do is aerobatics, and I couldn't find anybody to teach me. And we went to a contest, went to a show. We had a 185. We flew it down from Alaska and flew around for a couple of weeks. And I was just like, oh, that's what I want to do. I can do that. And this takes everything I love to do, airplanes, travel, excitement, roller coasters.
Adventure, yeah, all that.
It puts it into one thing, and I could be good at that. And right about that time, a woman named Darlene Dubé started teaching. She had a 150 horse decathlon, and so in Alaska. So I took a 10-hour course with her, and my husband gave me that as a gift. And so that's how I got started. And then I started training with Dwayne Cole a little bit, and then we bought a super decathlon, and that's how I got started. I just went up and practiced, and there were a couple of people up there. A friend of my dad's was a good aerobatic pilot. He worked with me, and I would just go to the best people I could find, and ask them for help. And people are always happy to help you.
You being a female, you were still able to get help?
Yeah, people, when they see you're interested, yeah, absolutely. And there was a really nice group of aerobatic pilots in Alaska at the time, and just a small group, and they'd all go fly together and do some little air shows, and a couple of guys is I think, I got a little, when I first started going down to the States and flying contests, I get a little like, oh, it's so cute, this girl, and then they see that you're serious and
good. They're like, well, wow, she's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing to start with, but
right.
But they see that you're serious and that you want to do it and that you're gung-ho about it, and you push through that, and you find that most of the guys are really supportive. I would have guys come up to me and go, we know you're serious, we know you can do really well, and then
I know it's a little bit different, but how would they, because it's expensive to fly, to get in the air show circuit, getting paid and making money in air shows, I can't imagine to do, because you got to be one of the top people, really.
It's hard.
So how would they do it? How would they get involved and start doing that?
So, we all start somewhere. I started in a decathlon flying really high at an air show, and I got paid $300 for my first show. In fact, I was going through some old albums the other day, and I found the letter saying, here's your $300. I bought with it. And I'm a big believer that you should charge for every air show pretty much,
Yeah.
There are exceptions, but, and you don't have to charge a lot. And, of course, first you have to learn how to do aerobatics, and the best way is through competition. And a lot of people start off going, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I'll do some contests. And then they start flying a little bit lower. And then they're like, oh, somebody asked them to do a show. And one thing leads to another. And you just start step by step. And there's no shortcuts at all. Some people think there are, and they're, I'm going to be a big air show pilot. I'm like, well, first you got to learn how to do this stuff.
Yourself, especially, I think.
Yeah.
They're really amazing aerobatic pilots, but they're not in the air show.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that just compete.
Right.
They're just for fun. Yeah. It's nice to have a goal and set a mission. I'm kind of goal oriented. I think most pilots are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to fly a contest. Like when I first started, I said to my husband, I said, well, okay, now I have this decathlon and I've been practicing and I really like it, but and now I sort of have to put my money where my mouth is, right?
Right.
Like I said I want to compete and do a show. Now I'm scared to death. And what should I do? What if I don't like it? And he goes, well, don't worry about it. He gave me the best advice. He said, just fly one contest and fly one air show. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. There's nobody forcing you.
True.
Okay, that's a good idea. So I flew one of each and then kept going, So it's just a matter of getting started. And if you don't like it, so what?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things we try in life, right? Certainly you got to go out and try stuff like, whether it's skiing or skateboarding or anything.
When you started, you really had to build up your tolerance, because I thought, oh, I love aerobatics. I, got to fly in the T6 with Aeroshell at Sun and Fun, I believe.
Cool. Yeah.
And it was awesome, but I was like, this is great. I want to do it. And then I actually took some lessons, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
What'd you take lessons in? What kind of airplane?
It was a decathlon.
Yeah, perfect. It's physical. It's very physical. Yeah, that's what I like about it. But Yeah, it's physically demanding. And I always tell people, look, you're going to sleep better than you've ever slept. If,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
that's the, yeah, and you really do,
I think
sleep
the
well.
mental side of it and just like getting your head in it and doing these things. But I think one of the reasons I love being a pilot and flying is I have the control. And so when I'm flying doing training, like I'm fine. It's when someone's showing me something repeatedly and
Yeah.
I'm just like not at the controls. Like I'm a little bit hot thinking about it right now.
Someone else being
Yeah.
in control.
Well,
Yeah.
you have to have an instructor that you trust 100%. That's in a good airplane. And once you get past that, you sort of have to surrender and just say, I trust this person. I put myself in this situation and I'm going to let go of that control right now because, you have to. Sort of like being on an airliner, you have to let go.
Yeah.
Wreck, you can't sit back there and think of all the things that can happen. You gotta have faith somewhere, along the line that the pilot knows what they're doing. And if you don't, you can't get past that. You got to find somebody else to fly with,
True.
But if you surrender to it, if you're in a good situation with the right instructor and plane, and you surrender to it, it's just a learning thing. It's like being in kindergarten. You got to trust the teacher, and then it's not for everybody, of course, but you can move up to first grade and high school and so on. All that, but it's good to take lessons and get that out of the way.
Totally. Yeah. So when you started your school, how did that all come about? Where did you always know you wanted to do that, or this point?
Oh no, that's funny, because we're talking about just getting started, right?
Yeah.
It seems to be like the theme this morning. No, for years people have been saying, when are you going to go to school? I'm like, oh my God, it just seems like so much work, no money in it. And do I really want to, I wasn't ready for a long time either. And it was one of those things coming together, kind of like the sporties thing, or like you were talking about earlier, that there was an office space here at the airport, which is at Southeast Aero, the extra dealer, that had been empty forever. And really nice office space where we are, and several rooms and room enough for a classroom and our supply room and my office and a lounge and a little kitchen. And I'm like, wow, excuse me. I went over there one day and saw this empty space. And right at that time, an old friend of mine had an extra that he was going to sell and said, hey, why don't you take this extra and just fly it for a while and do, some training in it? And I'm like, what? And then a student from Italy was contacting me and saying, I want to come and train with you. I want to get into competition. And I'm like, well, maybe. And it was like all these things at once. And I was sort of in between. I wasn't firefighting and I wasn't, I don't know. I was just in between stuff, looking at what I was going to do. And I just said, so I went and talked to them at Southeast, said, hey, I think I'd like to try this. What do you think? And they're like, okay. I'm like, I don't know where it's going to go. All I see is the forest. I don't have the trees figured out. I don't, I've run my own business for a long time, so I think I can do it, but I have no idea how it's going to go. And I just started. I got another instructor to help me, and, one thing led to another. And it didn't, I had to figure out how I was going to do the bookkeeping and the scheduling and, all that stuff. I like doing that stuff. And it's turned out really well. I think, again, when you get started and you put the vibe out there, you sort of bring the right people into you and things start coming more into focus. But I had no idea where it was going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think the things you're talking about starting things, I think because I started flying later, and one of the things I'm really want to encourage women, if there's something that you're really interested in, you may not know exactly how it's all going to pan out, but
no idea.
Go for it. If you pursue that interest and see where it goes, be open to
different directions. You don't know. Yeah. And even if you have everything planned out in your life, how often does that go?
Not often.
I mean, never. Does it ever go?
Right.
Exactly
And you can't
do you really want it to?
Right.
Yeah. How boring would that be?
Right.
No. I mean, you can't sit in a cubicle with a pocket protector your whole life unless you're that way. But most of us aren't.
Yeah. So don't fight. Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people that are always like, are you going to be a commercial pilot, or are you going to, why are you doing this? And I'm like, well, I love flying. Like, I found it one day. I got my license and now I'm here. And it's been 3 years almost. And, I work with hooker harness and I do that. But I mean, I'm loving what I'm doing right now. And if I made it my career, maybe I wouldn't love it as much. And I just,
Or maybe you would, who knows,
it's just like, I love your free spirit about it, that it's just, you kind of take it as it comes. And
I mean, I don't think you should just go, everything to the wind and just like, la, la, but, you need something of a plan. But, but aviation is probably more than anything that you'll ever do will give you more opportunities than anything else. The people you meet and just the different directions you can take it is what's so amazing to me. And the fact that you can go sit around at a, say a place like Oshkosh with 10 people and they all do totally different things in aviation.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't even know what's available to you,
I think that's the coolest thing about the podcast is we've met so many different people and I've learned about the WASP and there's so many things I had no idea about just coming into this 3 years ago that I'm like, how did I not know that?
And it's only like 100 years old, right? That's the other thing. Aviation's so young. It's amazing. It's given me so many opportunities for travel around the world and people that I know around the world, and it's all because of aviation.
Yeah. I saw that you had done some flying, I guess, in Kenya, and I thought, is it possible for you to say, out of all the kinds of experiences you've had, what were some of your favorites, or what are some of the things that have really influenced your life, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've flown a lot in Alaska. I was lucky enough to start there, but I love flying in Kenya. I've been there a number of times, and I work with the Kenya Wildlife Service pilots, and I've been there, really their chief trainer since 2001. So we were there last year, and I don't know if we're going to be able to go this coming year with the COVID thing.
Yeah.
Probably not until late in the year or the next year, but that's been really rewarding. And I've gotten to see most of Kenya, flown all over Kenya and seen, when you see animals in the wild like that, I don't know if either one of you have been to Africa or been on a safari, but it's like when you first go, it's like you just start laughing because it's like, it's like Disneyland, you think, okay, come on, this isn't real, bring out the elephants. Okay, here come the giraffes. You feel like somebody's behind the scenes.
Like it's a zoo and you're like.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's just beautiful. I love the people in Kenya are really, really beautiful and just very gentle, nice people. Pilots are great. It's been an amazing experience. So.
Well, have you flown? So I'm sure I've heard the United States has like the best. We have a lot of opportunities in aviation here as far as travel. Is it definitely that way?
No question. I have flown all over the world, and I can tell you that there's nowhere in the world that has the freedom that we have. When I tell people that I can fly from Florida to California and never talk to anybody on the radio and never file a flight plan, I can't believe it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I'll talk to, if I have to go to Howard Airport, of course I'm going to talk to somebody, and occasionally I'll get flight following, but I don't have to. Even in Canada, you don't have that freedom. It's just, it's something we really have to promote, let people know so that we don't lose it, because you lose one little bit of it and it never comes back. It's really hard to get it back. Yeah. But the people from all over the world want to fly in the States because of it.
Yeah.
Because of the freedom we have. There's no other place like it. And I'm afraid we're going to lose it if we're not careful.
Yeah. I don't think people realize how easy it is for us to get around and own airplanes. I hear they're so expensive to really own and maintain in other places.
Share a plane, it doesn't have to be that expensive. You can buy a Champ and have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You can find somebody to partner with. I have a partner in my airplane, in my get around plane.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, it makes it so easy.
Right. So you get to travel a lot for fun and not necessarily for work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I fly myself everywhere, especially now with COVID. I haven't been on a commercial flight and I don't plan to for the foreseeable future, but I don't have to.
Yeah.
So yeah. Once you have your own plane, you have more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. It's and I don't, when you think about the expense, I mean, how many people out there have $60,000 cars? A lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you can get a pretty good plane for $60,000.
Right.
Or you spend a little more, you can get an amazing plane for $100,000.
Yeah.
I have an RV like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I flew to New York a couple of weeks ago for a couple of days in New York City. And we landed in Caldwell and took a car, got a car in. And one fuel stop, 4.5 hours of flying time. We had a little headwind, but it wasn't that much.
Yeah.
It was not. It was
so amazing.
What?
Yeah, that's so amazing. We can be in one place and then just a few hours later, totally.
2 hours later, we're in New York City. Yeah. One fuel stop.
Yeah.
And burning very little gas, right?
Right. I'm sitting over here jealous that you guys are so much faster.
But even with the slower plane, even like a 182 or something like that, it's still not, maybe 6 hours. It's still nothing.
But it's still not, it's not necessarily how quick you can get there for me. It's just like all the cool little places that you can stop and see, and the view is just different.
Oh, yeah.
So,
with everybody. Yeah. So you've flown a lot of airplanes. What would be some of your favorite, most memorable or airplanes or flights?
Oh, I love flying the extra, I mean, I have flown a lot of planes, but when I get back in the extra, you're like, this is the plane. I mean, it can do anything you can think of. It's super strong, very honest. There's really nothing like it. I've flown the T6, the old T6, but the newer one too. They're both, I love the newer turboprop, Texan 2 and the Tucano. They're a big competitor.
Okay.
I've flown some Warbirds. Flying the Mustang is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that engine, the Merlin engine, is like nothing like it. So I asked Scott Crossfield once a long time ago. It was kind of a stupid question actually, but I said, "You've flown all these planes. What's your favorite?" Not the way you said was a stupid question, but the way I put it to him, I think, was it was just kind of lame. I was just trying to make conversation, and he goes, I always say it's the one I'm in. And I'm like, oh, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
It really is. So I don't know if that's true for me, the one I'm in, because there are much more exciting planes to fly. Of course,
the extra's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the extra's amazing. Have you flown one yet, Natalie?
Have not. No.
Come fly one, both of you guys.
Yeah.
So gorgeous. It's such a cool plane. When you get in it, there are ever times or any maneuvers that you're really frightened and scared to do something?
No, never. I mean, everything you do in aerobatics, you start up high and you learn how to do it. And then before I fly low, I don't do anything low that I'm not sure of. But no, there's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, the worst, people ask me, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I'm like, you get in a spin, big deal. You learn how to recover from spins pretty early on.
Yeah.
Aerobatic training. And and the plane's very strong. It has a one-piece wing and with two giant box bars in it. I mean, super strong. The construction is beautiful. I've never felt worried about the equipment. You should never fly equipment that you're worried about anyway. I don't want to go up there and wonder if the plane's going to break.
Renee has one of your old extras, I believe.
Yeah, she does. My first extra.
And so I jumped in that a couple months ago. I flew over. They're good friends of mine and jumped in, and she's tiny. So of course I was,
really tiny.
But I mean, it was just like, this feels so comfortable, and it was kind of one with the extra, it's
very much so,
that you feel like you are one with that airplane.
And you need to when you're doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Do you think most of your time is like in your logbook is mostly extra, or what do you think you have the most of?
I've got a lot of extra time, but I've flown so much to air shows like in Barron's, Bananas, stuff like that. For a long time I was doing so many shows. I had to have a ferry pilot fly my plane, and I'd be in the Barron.
That's the job I want right there.
Ferry pilot?
Of Patty's plane, yeah.
They'll be like, oh, Patty did a show over this little town today, and you'll be like, wait, I wasn't there. That was my ferry pilot.
I know everybody thinks it's you. I'm like, just wave and be nice because, But right. Once air shows get going again, Natalie, if you want to be a ferry pilot, maybe I can help you find
That would be awesome. I do want to thank you. I know you've had, your experience, and I do want to thank you for your help with some questions that I had recently. You've been very helpful to flygirl and supportive, and I appreciate you sharing things and resharing things that I post, and you're very encouraging to me and to other women about getting out there and flying. And I love how you just show your personality, on social media. I know kind of what you're like, and you're just a real kind of person, that people want to know.
Yeah. I think it's really important that women support each other because we're outnumbered,
Yeah.
So we really have to. And, I gave this talk to the big company recently, and they had very few women. I was really surprised because it's a real progressive company. And they said, well, what do you, it was a virtual kind of lunchtime thing and talk. And anyway, what would you say to other women? I'm like, they're in a company of like 1,500, they only had 60 women. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the more, I won't mention them, but right now, but it was one of the more progressive kind of space companies out there. And I said, I don't, whether you like each other or not, and you get a group of 60 people, not everybody's going to be in love with each other. And I said, but support each other and have a united front, even if, it's like in the air show business, have a united front with the other women there. And we do like each other, but even if you don't let somebody see a chink in that group or a weakness there, because it's really important that we support each other,
So true.
That's been a big thing with aviation. I feel like they're my unspoken group of friends without even having met them. And it's not about whose name it is or, it's like super cool to talk to you, but I know like going in and talking to you, you're just a normal human and that you're going to be down to earth and we can talk airplanes and be totally cool.
Absolutely. I don't feel any different than I did when I first started, really.
Yeah.
So it's important. So
yeah, I agree. Well, I don't know if you want to talk about anything else, Allyssa. This was I have a notes here, and I think we talked about everything I want to talk about. I liked focusing on the starting stuff, and I like that message of just
get started. Who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah. Right. And one of these days, I'm going to get down there and do one of your classes.
I think it'd be good. Yeah, and fly your plane down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love that.
So just come down for a couple of days. It's a nice little town anyway.
I was born in Jacksonville.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy.
Really? So you know the area then?
Okay. Yeah. I know it pretty well. It's been a while since I've been there, but I love Florida. There's so many good flying opportunities there. So many airports.
Great flying state. It really is. It's probably the best flying state for just weather and so many airports and
Definitely.
Things are really weird right now, but
I know.
But it's
hopefully it's going to get better. Hopefully,
I don't know. Florida's so it's kind of scary for I live downtown. I live right downtown, and to walk downtown is really you're taking your life because people aren't wearing masks at all, and I mean some people are, but very few. The restaurants are, but. We don't go to restaurants. We just do takeout, which is great because there's all kinds of great takeout.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But if I go out, if I have to walk into town, I usually ride my bicycle and I'm careful because so things will hopefully get better in the next,
I hope so.
Maybe something like that. But
everything.
What do you think the air show season is going to be like?
I think, shows are starting to book for next year, but I can't see how. It's not going to be any different for 6 months. We're not going to have a vaccine till in the year where everybody gets it. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. They've done some of these drive-in shows that have been really popular. People tailgate, and apparently that's going really well. But I don't know that every venue, can do that.
Right.
So,
what do you think? I talked to Nathan Hammond the other day, and we were talking about training and air show pilots keeping up with their training. And I think going into the next air show season, everybody's going to be really practicing, really on point. Yeah. Do you think they will kind of slack off in the middle of it? And I mean, I worry for safety purposes, just not being training like for shows as frequent that.
I think, I think people probably haven't trained quite as much, but, most of the time when you get to this level, you have that skill. So it's not going to be, you're not starting from ground zero. Also, the airshow business has an ACE program, so everybody has to get evaluated every year. So that's something that you have. In fact, I just got evaluated the other day, and I had somebody come watch me fly, and if they had seen something, they would say it.
Right.
And there are a couple of practice events coming up where instead of air shows, they're just going to do a training session and just bring in airshow pilots, have other airshow pilots there watching them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we're trying to mitigate that kind of thing. And I think most people are pretty, we like to fly. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. And what they've done with the competition is they've had some practice days. They're doing one in Sebring where they normally have a contest, but they're not going to have that. They're just going to have a practice.
Mm-hmm.
People can come in and get in the box and have other people watch them and stuff. So I think they're finding ways to do it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's been almost 50 minutes, so I don't want to keep you any longer.
I appreciate it.
Really appreciate you getting up early and getting on here. And
thanks, Allyssa. You're the one that got up early.
I enjoyed it, and
she looks amazing, doesn't she?
I know. And really good lighting. That's the other thing I've been struggling with, all these Zoom calls. I'm trying to figure it out.
I have a ring light, so my living room is kind of dim and dark, so I have like a little.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it helps to brighten things. So,
yeah, but it's great to talk to you guys. Thank you. I really enjoyed it a lot, and thanks for accommodating me in my time and all that stuff. So
yeah, no problem. I wanted to mention Amy real quick before we get off. Amy Spowart has become a good friend of mine. She just lives right up the road for me.
She does.
Until recently, she's a hoot. I enjoy her.
She's doing a great job for National Aviation Hall of Fame. She's doing amazing. I mean, she's just what they need, the kind of energy and enthusiasm. So I love what she's doing. I hope
she's like a little kid. She's so energetic and so fun. I really like it.
So you guys can come down together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Have you taken her up in the plane? Does she do?
No. Oh. I'm sure I would love to. You know. She came down. She was down here in the spring, and it was right in the middle of the COVID thing, and our school was closed. But maybe next time.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Need to get her up and do some rolls and loops and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And good luck with your flying. I'll talk to you both soon, I hope.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to Cockpits and Cocktails with your hosts Natalie flyGIRL Kelley and Fly Allyssa. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join us next time for a lively discussion on aviation, aerospace, the air travel industry, and all things flight-related. Aerospace and the air travel industry.
Let it go to my head, I should have let it